Good afternoon and welcome to our complimentary webinar, which is brought to you today in partnership with Panviva. It's entitled Orchestrating a Better Digital Customer Experience. Over the next hour, with the help of today's special guests, better known as Team Panviva, which is Ben Cordero, Chief Information Officer, Rohit Lakampal, Head of Innovation, and last but certainly not least, Samantha Middlebrook, Digital Transformation Strategist, all from Panviva. We hope we have you totally engrossed in the conversation, as well as spark your interest, and of course there will be a Q&A at the end of the session. I'm Fiona Keough, CEO of Auscontact and your moderator for today. While we're waiting for everyone to join us, let's use the time wisely to quickly run through some housekeeping with you and to also introduce the panelists. Remember, it's important to interact with us today to maximise the benefit. And as you know, there's no need to take too many notes because we'll be providing you with the slides and recording of the webinar. So let's introduce Team Panviva. Today's panelist, Ben Cordero, is the Chief Technology Officer, apologies Ben, had you as CIO, at Panviva. He's leading both business and technology transformation for the organisation that is enabling the company to deliver truly innovative and cloud-based products and service. And of course, as I mentioned previously, Samantha Middlebrook, the Digital Transformation Strategist, and Rohit Lakampal, Head of Innovation at Panviva. So let's get our hands on the keyboard, all of our attendees, so that we learn how to interact, because today is going to be highly interactive and you will be doing some work in answering some poll questions. Please, as it says, go to the Q&A radio button on your control panel when you want to ask a question or to make comments for either Samantha, Rohit or Ben, or for me. From time to time. Don't forget, we're going to have a full Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so please type your questions as you go along so you don't forget to ask them. I know that many of you are familiar with asking questions, but let's try out the questions pane on the control panel now, just in case. And the question for today is a very, very deep question. It is: has the weather been cold in Melbourne this week? It's a yes or no answer. So let's see if we've got people that have experienced how cold it is in Melbourne this week. I was there on Tuesday and I really felt like I had my fingers and toes being frozen. I love it. Yes, 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 and yes. And from Ash has said it's always cold in Melbourne. Oh, well, there you go. So we clearly know how to use the questions pane, so that's brilliant. One more thing for housekeeping. If you're listening through headphones or speakers and experience any issues with your internet connection, please note that on the control panel, you can switch to the telephone and on the toll-free number for your country, and the access code and the PIN will appear on your screen for you to dial, or you can raise your hand and someone from the Auscontact team will rush to your aid. So with that, I'm going to hand the microphone, I believe, to Samantha, who's going to take us through the story today. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you, Fiona. We're going to switch it up a little bit and we're going to actually go to Ben to start off with, just to give us a bit of an introduction of where our business is at and why this webinar is so important for us to share with you today.
Yeah, thanks, Samantha. And thank you everyone for jumping on during, if you're on the East Coast, during your lunchtime, and also to Auscontact for allowing the opportunity for us to tell our story. We've been in the knowledge space for quite some time, delivering contextually sensitive information or contextually relevant information to individuals at the right time in the right place. And what we're going to cover today is really just to, I guess, a bit around our observations of how quite an interesting evolution of how the industry is moving, both from a customer and employee perspective, and really what we're expecting to be the way the customer experience scenario will play out, particularly with the explosion of digital channels. So it's not about me. Thank you for the introduction, Fiona. But Samantha's going to I guess, take the limelight. Samantha is as pointed out earlier, the digital transformation strategist, and her role is really to two-part. In part to lead the charge in terms of how the product, the Panviva product, and knowledge principles evolve, and ensuring that it is well and truly connected with the industry and how the buying patterns and so forth are progressing, as well as to work hand in hand with our customers and partners in sort of helping, I guess, evolve and de-risk their own digital transformation. And we also have Rahit here, who's head of innovation, and Rahit's role has certainly evolved very quickly through the course of the last few years at Panviva. He's been doing a great job in ensuring that we are taking advantage of the right technologies, and in particular in building out what we refer to as a knowledge ecosystem, and the ability for the knowledge platform to integrate and interact with your own enterprise systems and how you connect out with your customers. So without further ado, I'll hand back to Samantha to kick us off.
Okay, thank you for that, Ben. And as Fiona mentioned at the start of the session, we really want to make this as interactive as possible. We've got a team of experts here in Ben and Ro and myself, and we're really here to answer all of your questions and really help you simplify your digital journey, because digital transformation seems very scary, and what we're finding is lots of organisations just aren't sure how to start, and we want to really help you connect the digital dots of your organisation. So that's what we're really here to do today. So what we've got here is a pretty interesting slide. Digital is killing your customer experience. And I know, having a look at the attendees list, we've got a huge range of different individuals from all different organisations and having different roles. But a common theme that we saw throughout that attendees list is individuals who are really passionate about customer experience. Omnichannel is an interesting one. What it has essentially meant is that now your customers can interact with you anyway, anytime, anyhow. And what that actually means is your organisation is starting to maybe buy and purchase and implement a lot of different technologies to help you do that. But being a business person myself, what I'm often frustrated in is that throwing technology at a business issue doesn't mean we're solving your customer inquiry. And what we're finding is that digital, in some cases, is actually killing your customer experience, because now it's not just about managing your contact center channel or your retail channel. Now we're looking at bots and IVRs and virtual reality and all a whole range of issues that we need to start to look at. So to help set the scene on this, what we're going to take you through today is a little bit of a story, so you can truly understand where we're at, and hopefully this resonates with you. Before we get started though, before we get started, just to make sure that everyone is really engaged in what we're doing, we just have a quick poll question that we need everybody to answer. So what we want to know is, what digital channels is your organisation currently pursuing to help serve your customers in the way that they would like to?
Jess, if you could launch the poll question, that would be great. It's Fiona. So Sam, this is a great question to ask of everybody, especially to find out where we are all on that continuum in terms of digital channels. What are you seeing as the most popular, or where are people focusing their efforts currently?
Yeah, it's a great question, Fiona. I think what we're seeing is that the one that everyone seems to know is a chatbot. Lots of organisations are trying, and the emphasis is there are trying to implement a chatbot. But when we talk about digital channels, they're often channels that an organisation already have. It's our website, it's the intranet, it could be social media. It's really around how organisations are harnessing the power of that channel and really curating the right message to their customer based on that.
Fantastic. Well, Jess, if I could get you to close the poll, and let's see what our attendees have told us in terms of which channel they're pursuing. So if you could share the results. Oh my goodness, it's a pretty even spread, but no surprises, Samantha, I guess, that the website is number one with a bullet at 85%.
Yep, no surprises there at all. And I think that this will resonate quite well with the presentation we've put together and the discussion that we're hoping for, saying, look, you already have that platform that you know and that is in the organisation. This isn't about implementing a new channel. You've got one there. How do we get the most out of that for your customer?
Are you surprised by social media and web chat being so high up as well?
Definitely not. If we look at the latest reports that are coming out, and especially if we look at different customer segmentation or personas, we know that millennials will really lean to social media when they're through a research phase or choosing a product. We also know that web chat is hugely convenient for customers who are constantly on the go, and it's really about providing that anytime answer that customers are expecting.
Okay, so let's close the poll and move forward.
Great. Okay. So to start off on this journey, I want to talk to you a little bit about Mary. Mary is a millennial and she wants to go on a holiday. And if anyone has done any persona building in their organisations, there's a couple of things we need to know about Mary. She's always on the go. She's very fearful of missing out, and she likes to self-service. So when Mary decides she wants to go on a holiday, she wants it to happen pretty instantaneously, and she starts researching online. Now, something that Mary starts to look at is that in order to go on a holiday, she might need some money. And in fact, better than that, she might actually need a lot of money, especially if she's going to zip off to Europe for, 4 or 5 weeks to make sure that she's really living her best life. So, you know what? Mary decides she's going to put it on credit and she will deal with that later. And this starts Mary's buying journey. Now, Mary is going to start searching for a credit card online. And you can see here she's using the Viva Bank website, as we mentioned before, and a lot of you just told us in the poll that the website really is the first point of call for a lot of your customers. Now, whether they're trying to self-service or they're like Mary here, they're in the research phase of the buying cycle, it's going to be the first place they go to quickly find information. And when we're talking about things like credit cards or any type of product, we know traditionally the type of information we have at credit on websites are features and benefits tables. We have information in there for your customers to make them feel really confident in the products that you have available and make sure that they have the right information to choose the best product for them. So who has the best card? Mary's had a look and she thinks she definitely needs a platinum credit card, and it's got a rate of 19.5%. Now, Mary's having a think about this because what she actually remembers is maybe seeing a TV ad a couple of days ago, and she was pretty sure that that interest rate being offered was a little bit lower than that. And you know what? In addition to that, she thought that when she booked her holiday using this credit card, she'd get a whole range of other benefits. And the information being provided to Mary on the website right now isn't giving her that personalised message that she thought she was going to get. So Mary is going to maybe look at a different way of finding out that answer. She's clicked on apply now, so she wants to see where it's at, but there's something that's a little bit different here. Rather than the interest rate we saw on the main page before, now the interest rate is saying 20.5%. And the seed of doubt has now been planted in Mary. So she's gone from really looking at purchasing the Viva Bank Platinum card. She wants to use self-service through the Apply Now. But as she's gotten to the next screen, that interest rate has actually changed. Mary is pretty self-sufficient, and like we said before, she wants to be able to self-service her inquiry. So she's jumped on to the bot inside the Viva Bank website, and she's asked, what is the interest rate of the Platinum card? And the bot, who's very helpful, has come back with some great answers for Mary. But as we see here, the information that's being displayed by now the chatbot is different again. So Mary has actually gone to 3 different information sources with Viva Bank, the organisation, and each time she's been given a different answer. So Mary reluctantly decides to call the contact centre. And we say reluctantly because it's just not her preference. Mary would prefer to be online or self-service her inquiry, but unfortunately what's happened is those channels have failed her. And now when she calls the contact centre, the agent on the phone actually informs her that, you know what, the interest rate recently has changed. They're reading the latest communication and they've got the right information. But the problem is Mary has been given the wrong information so many times, she just can't commit to Viva Bank anymore, and she decides she's going to go to a different bank to purchase a credit card. Now, when we have a look at this scenario, which is very common amongst many organisations, not just in banking and finance, what we find is self-service has actually failed. And the reason it's failed is because of content silos within the Viva Bank organisation. What's actually happened here is each of the channels that we've mentioned is managed by a different area of the Viva Bank business. And each of those areas have a different knowledge repository which they maintain and govern. And with that, that means that whenever Mary goes to a different channel, she's going to get different information. So with that, I'll hand over to Fiona to look at poll number 2.
Thanks, Sam. So Jess, if you could launch the poll, please. So where is your organisation's content stored today? And you can pick whichever applies, whether it's SharePoint, a file system, your intranet, a knowledge management tool, a custom application that you guys have written in-house, or in some other repository. So Samantha, in that example you just gave it with Viva Bank, there were 3 different sources of the truth. How frequently are you seeing multiple sources of the truth as you work with different organisations?
Yeah, it's a great question, Fiona. So even if we take a step, traditionally when organisations implement just for their contact centre, it's common for us to find 4 or 5 content repositories in that organisation. But now what we're finding is this number is extrapolated and is much larger, because anytime an organisation chooses to add another channel, let's say a chatbot, they're under the thought that they need to actually create a new repository to handle that channel. And I'll give you an example. If we look at the way that chatbots work with information, they're all about providing a snippet of information to handle really a micro intent that a customer has. That's very different to a contact centre agent that's used to handling a whole range of inquiries in the one document. Now, what organisations are tending to think is that they need a different knowledge repository to actually service that channel. And so what we have is duplication across the organisation. There is no longer a single source of truth. There are lots of siloed repositories that people are now trying to manage.
Fantastic. So Jess, if you could close the poll and let's see what our attendees are telling us. Oh my goodness. So there's lots and lots and lots of different repositories. I guess, Samantha, no surprise to you.
No surprise to us there.
Wow. Okay, so why don't we close this and move forward? I believe we've got another question. We are making our attendees work today, aren't we, Samantha?
Yes, we are.
Good, that's what we want. Okay, hands on the keyboards again. So Jess, please launch poll number 3. How do individuals, that's your employee or customers, access knowledge in your business? The good old ask a team member via email, chat, file explorer, a custom interface, a mobile device, or something else. And of course, we want you to tick everything that people are doing. And I'm going to guess that asking the team member sitting beside them is probably a very common occurrence. What do you think, Samantha?
That is a very common occurrence. We refer to it in 2 different ways. One, we call it an ask a colleague culture. We reliance on our tribal knowledge leaders in an organisation. And tribal knowledge leaders are a little bit of a double-edged sword. They're generally people that have been with your organisation for a long time, so they are the trusted source of truth. Now, the problem with a tribal knowledge leader, let's just say it's Ro in our organisation, maybe Ro is not as good as keeping up with change. So if I go and ask him a question, he may not have read the latest communication. Therefore, what he's actually doing is providing me the wrong information. Setting up a culture of relying on other people has a number of risks. So one is key man risk that we see lots of organisations have. Another we'll see, especially in the contact centre space, is the reliance on things like a support line or a mentor line. And we see that that customers are actually put on hold while someone goes and seeks the answer. So there's a couple of things that go wrong there. One, the customer experience is very inconsistent depending on the person that you get to speak to. And also the rate of misinformation or the risk of misinformation is actually increased depending on the person that you speak to as well.
Okay, so let's close the poll. So with that, Ro is not allowed to go on annual leave on that basis as well. He is
Apparently
the
not.
source of the truth. Okay, so what have our attendees told us about who? Oh my goodness. Oh, I just so love being right. My family will tell you that. Ask a team member. Pretty interesting spread though. Emails, very common. Are you seeing that?
It's really interesting. The reason why people send email is it's almost like instant information. So again, whether it's employees looking to find the right answer or your customer, the reason why we use a method that we're more comfortable with is because that's what we have confidence in. A lot of the time, organisations will use email when they truly believe that their knowledge is not being up to date, kept up to date enough, and so they just don't trust in that source of truth. So what we see is lots of organisations, different individuals will store emails at a point of reference. And in my time, I've worked with lots of organisations and looking at this survival technique, we call it. And the agents or the consultants that do really well in this, I think maybe they were librarians in a past life, because they have their emails sorted down to, you know, category, subcategory, subcategory of where the information is. The thing about email is there's no audit trail. We can't really see who's read and acknowledged that change, and there's no real way to see how effective the change has been. And of course it's email, so if I'm relying on that email and I delete it, it's gone. And so I don't have it there to really help me service the customer in the best way.
Thank you. So Jess, if you
and it's quite interesting, you know, that we're talking about this today, because I was on the phone with one of our American customers last night. They're a big banking corporation. And I mean, it's not just a problem that's faced by us in Australia, it's throughout the world. And this ask a colleague culture that Samantha mentioned, people do that because, you know, that seems to be the easiest thing for them to do in the organization. So, you know, it's important to set up a structure or a means by which employees can get the right information easily. Like, they don't need to go digging for it. And, you know, that's where you're going to have a whole bunch of failures.
That's right. And some of the other channels that we haven't even mentioned here, we're also working with another client here in Australia, which have almost kind of supercharged the Ask a Colleague culture, because they're using platforms such as WhatsApp or Viber to really knowledge share between each other. So when they don't know the answer, they jump onto their mobile device and they actually ask via chat. The problem with that is that it's ungoverned knowledge. It's just information. It's not in context to the inquiry that the customer's asked, and it hasn't been validated by anyone, so it's quite risky.
Absolutely. So let's close this poll and move forward.
Great. So the next slide that's going to come up here are some really fast facts. And the main thing that I want to take out of this is that omni-channel is not about the channel, it's really about your customer. And making the customer the heart of your omni-channel strategy is really important. We can't be swayed by the shiny new toy. We need to be really thinking about what is the customer experience that we're trying to achieve and how is that going to help your business as well. So some of the stats here, and Fiona, you definitely would have seen some of these, so keen to get your take on it. The first one we have is, by 2020, a customer will manage 85% of the relationship with an enterprise without interacting with a human. If we go back to Mary, and hopefully you haven't forgotten about her already, she was actually trying to interact with Viva Bank without speaking to a human. That was her personal preference. She didn't think she had any complex troubleshooting to work on, so she just wanted to do that. The second one we have there is 58% of customers view website prior to calling, and 34% are on your website while speaking with your contact center agent. I'm sure that many of us have listened to calls or double jacked with our consultants and actually heard the customer saying this. I'm on your website, it says this. There is nothing more frustrating for a customer is when the consultant actually says, I can't see what you're looking at, or I don't have that information. So this isn't just about transparency with our customers, it's for our employees as well. We need to set them up for success and give them access to the same information, the same right information that the customer has. And the third one here is really important. 1 in 3 people will leave a brand they love after just one bad experience. Every interaction with your customer counts. You know, we know from the latest reports that competitive advantage is not about your product offering, it's really about the experience that you provide with your customer base. That's how you set yourself apart in the market. This next slide is an interesting one, and we were presenting at a conference last week, and you know that a slide resonates when everybody gets out their mobile phone and starts taking photos, so hopefully we get lots of questions about this one towards the end. What we're saying to you is knowledge fragmentation is impacting your EX and CX. And this is really about elevating the importance of knowledge in your organisation. Lots of people will speak to you about employee experience and customer experience. We talk about things like inconsistent internal and external messaging for our customers. And the reason why that is actually happening is, as we said in Mary's case, our customers now have access to many different channels. And the onus is really on the organisation to make sure that the information that we're giving our customers is consistent and makes sense. The other thing that's very frustrating, and we saw this with Mary, is that we have conflicting messaging across channels. You know, it was hard enough trying to keep information up to date when we had one website and we had the contact center. But now what we're saying is that some organizations have up to 11 different channels. That's 11 different areas of your organization trying to keep up with the rate of change. 11 different areas responsible for editing, updating, and then publishing information out to your customers. It's 11 different areas of risk where information can be wrong. And what it means is your customers are frustrated. They're frustrated with having to repeat their inquiry. They're frustrated with having to switch channels because the channel that they've chosen isn't able to complete their inquiry. And what we also see is there's increasing regulated costs and risks associated with this because, as we know, especially in the banking sector with the recent investigation, when you get it wrong, you get it really wrong, and there's a huge impact not only from your brand but a financial cost as well. We've spoken a lot about our customers today, and it makes sense because this is a CX webinar, but we can't forget our employees. And supporting our employees really means that we set ourselves up for success in creating happy customers. You know, our frontline and the people in your organisation are there to champion your brand, and we need to set them up for success, giving them access to the tools and information that they need. With an employees before, when we asked the poll, we said, you know, where can you access information? We had a whole range of things there. On the left-hand side, you can see we said share drives. I know that one came up in the poll. We said the intranet. That one came up as well. Personal notes, we could talk about email there, training guides, and agent workers, which is the Ask a Colleague culture. When you have disparate information in your organisation, you make it really hard for your employees. You say, you know what, Ro, it's up for you today to choose where you're going to find that information. And sometimes you might have to go to 2 or 3 different spots, and you know what, that could be conflicting as well. When we have so many different repositories, we've spoken about this, it makes it very difficult to update and to distribute knowledge. If you are in a sector which is quite competitive and you're constantly trying to get out new offers or new codes, now what we're saying is rather than it just being in a single spreadsheet where it was before, it's in all those different touch points in the organisation, and the risk of error is multiplied. And the other thing that we have is that information becomes really quite hard to access and understand. When we talk about knowledge, we say that it needs to have a couple of key principles. One, it needs to be really simple, written in clear and concise language, and really important, it's important that it's structured in a way that the end user can understand it. So now what we're talking about is we need to have information written in a way that the employees can understand it, but also even a simpler version that your customers can understand as well. The second thing is that it must be really easy to find. We know that people will actually rely on an Ask a Colleague culture because the content is just too hard to find. If I've got a customer on hold, I'm not going to wade through my email or to search on the intranet if someone is right next to me and I can just start there. And the last one is that it must be quick to update. So you must keep up with the rate of change, and having information everywhere just makes that way too hard. So this is the current state. Fiona, you asked me before, do we see lots of organisations with this problem? We do, and that's why we've put together this slide, because what we're saying is this is a real issue, and it's not called out enough that this is an issue of why your digital is actually impacting your customer experience. This is Panviva's solution. This is how we're helping organisations solve for this problem. What we're talking about is creating a knowledge ecosystem for your organisation. An ecosystem that is living and breathing and connects different areas of your business, different applications, and your employees and your customers. With an ecosystem, what we're saying is that you must have a single knowledge base that feeds all of your channels so you get consistent message. It's a single source of truth that everyone is confident with, that they can get the answer that they need. Another thing that we're finding with having all these different repositories is that you're duplicating the effort and you're changing the messaging slightly. We really want to change this. What we're saying is that you should be able to write your content once and reuse it and repurpose it across any digital channel specific to the customer's needs. And we don't want any duplication. So it's around creating the information and then curating a specific message that matches those needs. We want to help you drive consistency and remove risk. We want to make sure that your customers only see the validated information from your single safe source, and also that your employees know exactly what the customer has seen and read. And we want to work with push and pull information dynamically so we can serve all of these exciting new opportunities for your organization. You know, messaging, your custom mobile apps, your chatbots are in there. Anything that you can imagine needs to come from this single source of truth. And we want to leave you with something final here that you can take away. What we're saying to you is the key to omnichannel is orchestration. And orchestration now needs to be the heart of your omnichannel strategy. In the slide before, what you saw is a single source of truth, and Panviva is now orchestrating this experience for you. To create a better customer experience, you must connect the digital dots of your organization. And what we're saying to you is you need to curate, not duplicate, your knowledge. Just in case there is anyone on the webinar that don't know who we are, we are Panviva. We are a global software company, and we are leading the way in omnichannel CX knowledge management solutions. We provide the right answer to your employees and your customers at their time of need, and we're doing it in 3 exciting ways. 1, we have a single knowledge repository that allows you to create and curate content. 2, we have API technology to deliver contextual relevant knowledge to any channel or device. And 3, we integrate with AI platforms to make digital channels intelligent. And these are the things that we're helping businesses achieve. Exceptional and seamless CX regardless of the channel. So if a customer decides that they want to self-service, we're not treating them as a second-rate customer. They have that same experience as if they call your contact center. We're delivering consistent and compliant messages anyway, anywhere, anytime. We are reducing process and service failures across channels. We're increasing your organization's capability and success in self-service, and we're allowing you to retain your customers in their preferred channel, which then leads to retention and increased sales. And these are the customers that we're currently helping do this right now. So Fiona, that's all from us. We've really spoken enough. I've spoken enough. And now we're really keen to understand everyone on the call, answer any questions that you have.
Thanks, Samantha. And it's a great story. I think when you look at the, you know, just before we get some further questions, look at the brands that you're supporting from an Australian perspective. There's certainly some very, very well-known brands. So congratulations on that, and well done, and very relatable brands, and I think that becomes important. So I need our people with their hands on the keyboard, because we don't actually have any questions at the moment, but we do have some, as we would say if we were on TV. Here's one I prepared earlier. Okay, so one of the questions that we have at the moment is, our business already has a chatbot project underway. How can we ensure its success? Who'd like to answer that one?
Hi Fiona, I thought I was going to get a break. I can answer that one for you. We're actually working with a client at the moment who has a really exciting chatbot project underway. So lots of lessons that we can share on that one. You know, the great thing is that means the organisation has taken the first step and they understand the importance of introducing that channel. Our advice to you is you need to get really close to that project, and we need to make sure that the information that the bot is referring to is the same information that your contact centre agent is or your website is as well. Because as we've mentioned earlier on, if the chatbot is just working on a discrete portion of information, we run a huge risk of getting that wrong. So the great thing is that you've started your journey. It's just around aligning really closely to what that project is and making sure that you're using that single source of truth, and that the way that the chatbot is interacting with your customer actually suits their needs and your business needs as well.
Terrific. Thank you. Still no questions. Very quiet today. Have we got into our afternoon nap?
Fiona, there's actually one from Luaki that was entered earlier.
Oh, okay.
What would you classify other as?
Oh, yes.
So I think that relates back to one of the earlier questions on
one of the polls.
Yeah. So I think that probably the simplest way to cover that off is really about the other channels listed were mostly the common ones, but we're seeing a lot of other emerging channels coming through, such as augmented reality, co-browsing, and so on. That I think, particularly as technology becomes easier and easier to access and more democratized towards the business, we're seeing a lot more of these new channels spin up, and it's really just compounding the problem that Samantha's been describing around the maintenance of that knowledge and accessibility out to the various channels. So really emphasises the need to orchestrate across all of those channels from the single source of truth.
Okay, so someone's got their typing fingers going, which I love. So Ash has a question. Is it not more efficient for business to develop their own API internally for consistency in information? Most businesses use custom software, so what measures have been taken to address modular workflows with your platform?
Yeah, Ben can take that one.
It sort of sounds, I guess, reading this at a quick glance, it sort of sounds almost like two questions there. So the first part is really around the I guess the APIs. Now the thing to bear in mind there that's I guess in its grassroots is a very technology-based question, but it's more about how APIs are able to be leveraged to connect the various different systems, whether it be endpoints to push information to or information sources. From our perspective, APIs, we designed APIs to be easy to consume, taking the same philosophy as the consumption of knowledge. We wanted to ensure that APIs and how you source or take information from them is easy for a business to consume. So the platform that we've developed is very much about literally as simple as configuration, and away you go. Now, sorry, the question sort of moved off. The second part. Yeah, that's right. So most businesses do use custom software, and we have encountered that quite frequently. And it really just comes down to how those various developers of the custom software has coded the integration or the accessibility connectivity to that application. There's always two ends to an API. On our end, it's about configuration, ease to get in, and away you go. So the other half of that really comes down to how those developers have developed that software.
Thank you, Ben. So here's the leading question from Josh, which I quite like. Do you find the knowledge tools agents need to be effective are different for each channel?
So I might take that one, Fiona, and I'm just going to clarify. So hopefully Josh can be interactive with this one. So when we talk about the knowledge tools, I think rather than talking about tools, we talk about the knowledge and the content and the way that it's consumed. So I definitely agree that the way that knowledge is structured and a message is curated needs to be different for every channel. Let's take an example. The way that a message or a piece of content is designed and curated for, say, Alexa is very different to an instructional step that would be inside a procedure for a contact centre agent. The knowledge itself is the same, but the way that it's delivered is different and the style of it is different. So here it's not about the tools, it's about making sure that the message is correct and the message is personalised to that channel or the device.
Makes sense, Samantha, makes sense. So we have an anonymous attendee. Ooh, mystery person with a very good question, actually. So our anonymous attendee has asked, what opportunities do you see for digital communications when dealing mostly with older clients? 50% over 80 years and 80% over 50 years?
Okay, great. That's a great question. And the thing is that, you know, when we're looking at our customers and our customer base, we need to understand the different needs of the different customer segments. I've seen organizations get this very wrong when they try and push their customers into going online, inverted commas, but they don't offer any support. And so what that means is that they're telling their customers, their older customers in this instance, that they must self-service, but these customers don't even know how to self-service. So this is where the contact center agent or the organization really has a chance to shine in the CX space, because it's really around helping them. Some of the things that we see organizations do is things like co-browsing, which allows the contact center agent to really teach the older generation customer how to fish, let's say, giving them access to what the older generation is seeing and allowing them to really learn, and so they don't get stuck and leave that channel and have to call. It allows them to keep moving through. That's one example of it. Another one we can think about is, you know, in the news, many people have probably seen what's happening in the health industry and around how we're making knowledge more accessible. Having a channel such as Alexa or Google Home in the home means that the older generation consumer can actually ask a question using that application. So they can say, you know, hey Alexa, tell me what my latest interest rate is, if that's what we want to know, or, you know, what's the opening time of my branch? And Alexa will actually feed that information back to them. So in the comfort of their own home, without them having to jump onto a PC, let's say, there are definitely other digital channels that we can use to serve those customers.
Fantastic. Cheryl has a question, which I think relates to what you were just talking about, Samantha. She said, you're only talking about digital. Can it be used as information delivery to provide information to a customer in person, as well as that is one source of the truth?
Cheryl, you've got it exactly right. What we want to do is, whether it's digital or it's going to a person directly, we want to have a single source of truth. Whether it's going out to your print catalogues, let's just say that you've got brochureware and it's print and you want to make sure the message is the same, it should come from the same source of truth. If you've got a point of sale machine in a branch, we want that same content to come from that source of truth as well. So omni-channel is about giving your customer the right to choose how they want to receive the information, and that can be any way. And what we're doing with Panviva Digital Orchestrator is supporting your customer's right to choose and making sure your organisation gets them the right answer every time.
And Cheryl has asked a supplementary question. And she wants to know, can you put security around the information for employees versus customers?
Yes, you definitely can, Cheryl. So something that's really important with knowledge is making sure that it's targeted. It's targeted to the right audience and it's targeted to the right competency level as well. So we know that there are certain rules and steps that an employee would see that we don't want our customers to see. And that's really the beauty of Digital Orchestrator, because it means that it's all in one place and you choose what your customer sees and you choose what your employee sees. And rather than having to duplicate that information over and over again, it's just in the one document now.
So
and how that might look like. Oh, sorry, Fiona, I didn't mean to cut you off there. So to give you an actual life example of what that might look like would be someone trying to activate their card, and whether if the customer has asked that question to an Alexa, because the customer hasn't necessarily been identified there, the sort of answer you'd get would be very different to when the customer's been identified and asking the same question over an IVR. So, so it just brings back that whole concept of having that single source of truth, but also being able to curate those little snippets to help us connect those digital dots.
Thank you. I want to ask one of the most difficult questions I think you guys are going to answer today, or maybe not. Maybe you've found an easy path. different areas of our business own different channels. For example, marketing own the website, knowledge management own the contact center. How do we bring them all together?
Fiona, that is a very good question. And it's something that is quite common throughout all the organisations we work with. You know, it's not like they've just started, spun up their business. It's something that's been quite matured and grown over a number of years. And therefore, there's a number of different teams that have taken ownership and managed specific channels. And particularly in the, I guess, in the explosion of digital channels, more and more teams. I mean, there's even organisations we're dealing with where there's one I'm thinking of in particular. It's nearly 20 different digital channels, digital initiatives that have been spun up, and every one of them is being managed by a separate team. Obviously, it's quite a large organisation, but they're servicing essentially a single type of industry, a single type of product. So it's extraordinary how any organisation can manage such a thing. So the key to the principle of what we're doing here is acknowledging all of that, acknowledging the need, the scale, and the reality of this sprawl. And I guess if you think about it from a visualization perspective, we're laying a fabric across all of these different departments and initiatives, and providing a means to be able to orchestrate knowledge across all of them, retaining the need for each of those departments to manage and control and workflow and improve and all those sort of things within their own, I guess, within their own processes, but to ensure that that the organisation as a whole is able to tie that back together and connect it back to a single source of truth. I think that's probably one of the most important principles that we're trying to state here. You know, it's a challenge and a need that has existed for many decades, but what we're saying today is about orchestrating across all of those.
And I love
that answers.
Yeah, I think it does. And I love the idea of orchestrating across many channels. You talked about a client that has about 20 different channels that they're using currently, if I heard you correctly. So off the back of that, I guess the question is, are there any limitations on the number or type of channels that can be served by the digital orchestrator?
Yeah, so I mean, the types of the number of channels that you want to serve is completely up to your imagination. You know, we've made sure that you do what you do best, and that is to focus on the user and the customer experience that you want and the channels that you think you need to serve best. And you know, if you want to integrate that with some of the standard channels like web, mobile, or chatbots, or social, or some of the newer, cooler ones like VPAs like Alexa, or even do augmented reality or virtual reality, you know, we've made it quite easy. So you know, your imagination is the only limitation here.
Thank you. And we've got a few more questions coming in. Ash would like to know, does this platform support scheduled information changes from staging?
Thank you, Ash, for being so interactive. The great news is, yes, it does. We understand that you can't have people available all the time just to press publish. It's just not sustainable, and you need to retain control of when and where your information is pushed out. So yes, we do have scheduled reviews available to make sure that you're always getting the most up-to-date information.
Fantastic. A question from Daniela. Daniela has said, our business is about to launch our new knowledge base with the help of Panviva. Smiley emoticon. For our agents,
thank you, Daniela.
For our angel agents, that's the angels for me, that handle multiple customer contacts, that is 2 chats at once, what is your solution for presenting different processes and multiple sources of information to the chat team in a simplified way?
Thank you, Danielle. Lovely to to hear from you again. This is not a paid arrangement. I just let everyone know. So Danielle, as you know, and I hope all of our customers know, is we're really committed to providing your employees and your customers with the best experience. And so what we are doing is working on how is the best way to present that information so your employees can do what they do best, which is service your customers, but always have that right information there for them. So, you know, it's around thinking outside of the box, around how the information is traditionally presented, and I've seen how it works right now as well, I have to say, Danielle. And what we're really looking to do is make it, like you said, it's a simplified way. So rather than those multiple agents trying to decide where they go to next, it's about us serving up that display in a way that makes sense to both your customer conversations and your employee support as well.
And in some cases, we're also exploring, you know, integrations with chat providers as well to kind of see where, you know, we can be a bit more innovative and solve this problem. So that's still going to be, you know, focus for us in the coming few months.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really interesting point and something that's very exciting as Roa's head of innovation, as his title is. You know, every day our developers who are amazing come up with all of these new amazing ideas, and we can really present them with almost any problem, and we give them the push to really think outside the box for our customers and for our customers of the future as well. And the things that they're coming up with are really kind of second to none. So it's a really exciting time for us here. We are pushing the boundaries constantly, and we are excited to work with not only Daniela and the team, but all of our other organisations and clients as well to really come up with great solutions for you.
Thanks, Samantha. So I guess the big question of the day is, how can we get started with Digital Orchestrator?
Yes, so how can you get started? The first thing that I'll just say to you is we haven't even gotten in to show you Digital Orchestrator yet, right? So everyone's excited and we haven't even shown you.
I think Ash just asked the big question.
Yeah, Ash just
how much?
Great question, Ash, and surprisingly, none of us are in sales. So, what I'd say is that, you know, we're so excited that you're excited without even seeing Digital Orchestrator. The first thing we'd like to say is let us come and show you the power of orchestration and what it can do for yourself and your customers. You know what? We want to make this really simple for you. 3 key things that we want you to think about. What business problem is your business actually trying to solve? So what is keeping you awake at night? What is the burning platform for your customer experience right now? The second one is which channel do you want to focus on? So Ben, you know, is saying, look, some organisations are using 20 channels. We probably recommend let's start with 1 and get that working really well. And let's think of a use case that's actually going to help. From there, our team will come in and help you design the best solution. We've got a really simple plan to get you up and running in just a couple of weeks and seeing those benefits. But the first thing you need to do is book in a consultation with us so we can come in and start that conversation and help you start that digital journey.
Well done. Well, of course, the conversation will continue by the sounds of things, certainly with Ash. So with that, I would love to extend my thanks to Team Panviva for making today's webinar possible and for being so transparent and so sharing of their knowledge and their experience with our audience today. We can't thank you enough. To Ben, to Ro, to Samantha, great work, great interaction, love the energy, love the potential of what is out there. Any closing comments from Team Panviva?
No, other than that of thanks and gratitude for everyone. You know, it's a challenge that, as we said earlier, that the industry is facing for many years, and an evolving one. You know, we're really entering into the generation of instant gratification, and that is I guess the source of many of the challenges and innovations that we are working with now and into the future. So yeah, we'd certainly appreciate the opportunity to have a further chat. We've built, as Samantha said, we've built everything around easy to get started. So we do take the same principle of easy as 1, 2, 3. We want to make it as easy and risk-free as possible for our customers to take on and explore out. So yeah, please do reach out. We'd love to catch up.
Okay, well, with that, thank you very much. We're right on the hour. We're contact centre people, so that works absolutely brilliantly. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you, Team Panviva, and have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever you may be. See you soon.
Thank you.